right now, as you listen to this, you probably feel like you are sitting or standing, perfectly still.
Right. Just totally motionless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But under your skin, your body is actually executing this continuous, almost violent storm of micro-adjustments just to keep you from falling over.
It is a lot of work.
It really is. I mean,
Mm.
think about how many times in your life someone has told you to stand up straight. Or maybe you have caught your reflection in a window and realized you were totally slouching.
Oh, yeah. We have all been there.
We have this deeply ingrained idea that good posture is like this architectural achievement. You stack your blocks perfectly, lock your joints into place, and then just hold that frozen position like a marble statue.
Right. Like you are posing for a photograph.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if that entire concept of good posture as some rigid, static position is completely wrong?
Well, we have really been conditioned to view our bodies as these inert structures. Like they have to be aggressively hoisted up and held against gravity.
Yeah, totally.
The assumption is that if we are not actively clenching our muscles and, holding ourselves up, we will just collapse into a puddle on the floor.
Just a pile of bones, right?
Right. We basically treat human movement like a poorly built brick wall that constantly needs more mortar to stay standing.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We are exploring a really fascinating set of body mechanics research notes, and they are simply titled The Push and Pull Wave.
It is a great framework.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore how human posture, and honestly human movement in general, are actually these continuous dynamic processes of self-organization. It is not a fixed state at all.
Not even close.
And what I love about this is that it fundamentally changes the way we understand feeling comfortable in our own skin. And for you listening, do not worry. We're going to bypass all the dense clinical textbook jargon and get right into the actual mechanics of how you physically move through the world.
Which is so important. Because to understand why the idea of a static posture is a myth, we first have to look really closely at what is actually happening inside your body when you think you are standing completely still.
Because you aren't.
No, not at all. The research makes it very clear that stillness is basically a neurological and biomechanical illusion.
Right, so you stand in line at the grocery store and you feel stationary. But internally, according to these notes, it is an absolute storm of activity, right?
Yeah.
You've got your breathing physically displacing your organs with every breath. You've got your weight distribution constantly shifting back and forth, from heel to toe just to maintain balance.
Micro shifts, yeah.
Right, and your fascia, that continuous web of connective tissue that shrink wraps your muscles and organs and bones, that is dynamically tightening and releasing the whole time.
So posture really isn't a position. It is an ongoing, real-time process of self-correction.
Okay, so the research breaks down this continuous self-correction into two fundamental, constantly interacting forces, push and pull.
Yes. Let us start with push.
Let's do it.
Push is essentially how your body interacts with the external world. And it is generated by your superficial musculature.
Superficial meaning the outer ones, right?
Exactly. These are your visible muscles, the ones you can easily, flex in a mirror. So your pectorals, your deltoids, your quads.
We are talking about the physical force required to, say, press against the ground with your feet so you can actually take a step and walk, or lift a heavy box off a table.
Or push open a really heavy door.
Right.
Yeah. If you didn't have this outward push, you literally couldn't interact with your environment. You would be completely inert.
You would. But when push dominates, and this is where we run into trouble.
Right.
When you are relying entirely on those outer muscles without any internal organization backing them up, the whole system starts to break down.
Because it's too much load.
Exactly. Your body is not designed to exist in a constant state of superficial outward force. When that becomes your default state, the text notes that you experience excessive muscular tension.
Which we all know. Oh, yeah. Your breathing becomes incredibly shallow, and you end up overusing the secondary muscles in your neck and shoulders just to keep your head up.
Which honestly perfectly describes how most of us feel when we are hunched over our keyboards by like 3 in the afternoon, right?
Totally.
Massaging our temples because our necks are just screaming. So if push is the outward force driven by the outer muscles, that brings us to pull. And the notes are very specific about what this actually means.
They are.
Pull refers to the body's ability to organize itself inward. and it is managed by the deep stabilizing system.
And we really need to define what that deep system actually is because you cannot see it. It is completely invisible from the outside.
Right.
So think of it as a pressurized cylinder holding up your spine. The roof of this cylinder is the diaphragm, which is your primary breathing muscle.
Okay.
The basement is the pelvic floor. The walls wrapping around the front and the sides, that is the transversus abdominis. It is a very deep, almost corset-like muscle layer.
So it literally wraps around your center.
Exactly.
Mm.
And then the rear support comes from the multifidus, which are these tiny little muscles that lace up the back of your spine like corset strings.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is it fair to say that push is kind of like a car's engine, providing the forward force, the raw torque that moves the vehicle down the highway,
I like that.
while pull is the chassis and the suspension system, quietly holding the vehicle together so it doesn't just, vibrate itself to pieces?
That is a brilliant analogy, actually, because if you drop a massive high horsepower engine inside a weak, totally unorganized chassis,
Like a pull.
right, a weak pull, the car will literally tear its own frame apart the moment you hit the gas pedal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Relying solely on your superficial muscles leads to exhaustion and injury because those outer muscles are designed for moving. They are built for quick bursts of interaction with the world.
Like lifting or running.
Exactly. They are not built for the endurance required to hold your skeletal system together for 16 hours a day. That is the job of the deep stabilizing cylinder.
Right. And this is where I want to look at that classic fitness advice we always hear, which is to just relax.
Oh, right.
Or like a yoga teacher telling you to, quote, let go of all your tension. Based on these mechanics in the notes, telling someone to completely relax is actually terrible physical advice.
It really is.
Because without the push, movement completely disappears. And without the pull of that deep cylinder, your movement becomes totally unstable.
Yeah, you cannot simply drop all tension and expect to function normally. You need the continuous interaction of both of these forces.
Right.
They do not just exist side by side in isolation. They form this really intricate symbiotic relationship.
Okay, so if push and pull are opposing forces, one projecting outward into the world and one gathering inward toward the spine, how is my body not just tearing itself apart in a constant tug of war? Like, how do they actually coordinate?
Well, they form a continuous wave. The notes actually call it the push and pull wave.
The push and pull wave, okay.
Yeah. Every push naturally transitions into a pull, and every pull prepares the body for the next push. It is this rhythmic micro-oscillation happening inside you right now.
And the research suggests a very specific model for this rhythm, tying it directly to our breath, which I found fascinating.
Me too.
It says pulling inward, so engaging that deep internal cylinder, aligns naturally with inhaling. And pushing outward, transmitting force to the world, aligns with exhaling.
Neurologically, this coupling makes perfect sense. Inhaling enhances internal organization and trends towards sympathetic nervous system activity.
Now wait, usually sympathetic means fight or flight, right?
Yes. But in this context, it isn't the panic mode sympathetic state. It is just a state of gentle neurological readiness and alertness.
Got it.
And exhaling, on the other hand, aligns with transmitting force outward safely, which trends toward parasympathetic activity. The rest, digest, and release state.
Okay, wait, I really have to challenge this text here. Because when I read this, it felt entirely counterintuitive to me. Usually, when we think of inhaling, we think of expanding outward, like blowing up a balloon in your chest.
Right, expanding the ribs.
Yeah, expanding seems like a push outward into the room, not a gathering inward. Plus, if I am at the gym, say deadlifting a heavy barbell, I don't inhale to pull in. Powerlifters can take a massive breath, they hold it, and they push outward into their lifting belt to brace themselves.
That is true.
So how does an inhale connect to a pull? Wouldn't gathering inward just make you, cave in under heavy weight?
What's fascinating here is that we have to look past the superficial expansion of the ribs. And we have to separate maximum force generation, like a heavy deadlift, from the mechanics of sustainable everyday movement.
Okay, so a deadlift is an extreme scenario.
Exactly. Let us look at what the diaphragm is actually doing during a natural everyday inhale. When you breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and it physically moves downward into the abdominal cavity.
So it is kind of squishing everything below it.
Yes. Imagine squeezing a water balloon from the top.
Oh, okay.
The pressure inside increases, and the water pushes out against the rubber walls. That downward movement, the diaphragm, creates intra-abdominal pressure.
Right.
And this internal pressure naturally tension loads the walls of the transversus abdominis and the pelvic floor. So the inhale creates the exact structural conditions required for deep internal organization. It gathers and secures the core from the inside out, creating this highly pressurized, really solid base.
Ah. Okay, so it is not about getting bigger in the chest. It is about packing the center cylinder so it becomes unified. The pull isn't like sucking your stomach in to look skinny. It's the natural tensioning of the whole system.
Exactly. It creates the stable base, and then as you exhale, the diaphragm releases upward, and you use that solid center to push off against. The exhale allows force to be transmitted outward safely.
That makes so much more sense.
And the author does include a caveat here. This breath pairing is a practical tendency. It is a model to help us feel the mechanics.
It's not a hard rule.
Right. It is not an absolute physiological law that you can literally never push on an inhale. It is really about cultivating an awareness of these extremely subtle tension networks rather than forceful, dramatic muscle contractions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because this subtle wave of breath and tension, it isn't just some esoteric new laboratory theory.
No, not at all.
This dynamic wave is secretly the foundation of human movement. It has been recognized by ancient physical traditions for centuries, and it is actively present in the most basic things we do every single day.
The cross-cultural parallels detailed in the research notes are really striking. If you look at Aikido, for example, there is a fundamental exercise called Torifune, or bird rowing.
Right.
On the surface, if you watch someone perform this on the mat, it looks like a person just repeatedly thrusting their arms forward and pulling them back while shouting rhythmically.
Yeah, honestly, it just looks like a really vigorous arm and shoulder workout.
Right, but the text notes that it is actually training for whole body tension integration. The power does not come from the shoulders at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The practitioner is alternating between projecting force outward into the world, which is the push, paired with the outward shout, and then returning to deep internal organization, which is the pull, gathering the hips and the spine back into alignment.
Wow. And it is not just Aikido. The notes also bring up Tai Chi, which relies heavily on the concepts of opening and closing.
Yes.
That perfectly mirrors this alternating physical expansion and internal gathering. Or in Chinese martial arts, there is the underlying principle of song,
Right, song.
which translates to a sort of relaxed release. It is a state where unnecessary superficial tension is dropped, but deep internal structural support is rigorously maintained.
Which proves that push and pull can coexist simultaneously. They do
Yeah.
not have to oppose each other in this exhausting tug of war.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, all of these diverse traditions, separated by huge stretches of geography and time, they all discovered the exact same biomechanical truth.
It's amazing.
Efficient human movement requires continuous rhythmic self-organization. You cannot lock the body into a static posture, tighten your outer muscles, and expect to generate powerful or healthy movement.
And, you don't even have to be a martial arts master to see this in action.
Sure.
Think about the simple act of walking down the street. It is a mundane miracle, really, because to take a single step, you have to push against the ground with your back foot to propel your body mass forward.
Right.
But if you just pushed, your spine would just collapse backward from the physical force.
You'd fall over.
Exactly. So simultaneously, your deep cylinder has to pull your trunk into internal organization to absorb the impact of your front foot hitting the pavement. Propulsion and integration are happening at the exact same time. Every single step is a push off the earth and a pull into your center.
It is a remarkable feat of structural engineering, honestly. And this really brings us to the ultimate goal of all of this analysis.
Yeah, the why do we care part.
Exactly. If we're constantly oscillating between push and pull with every breath and every step, how does understanding this translate to feeling good? How does it actually get us to a state where we are pain-free and comfortable in our own bodies?
Right.
The research points to the architectural concept of tensegrity.
Tensegrity. It sounds like a made-up word from a sci-fi novel, but it is a very real structural principle.
It is.
So a tensegrity structure is stabilized by a balance of continuous tension and discontinuous compression.
Basically parts that pull and parts that push.
Exactly. If you have ever seen those cool wooden desk toys where a bunch of wooden dowels seem to be just like floating in midair, held together entirely by tight elastic bands, That is tensegrity.
Yeah, the wooden dowels are the compression elements. They are pushing outward. And the elastic bands are the tension elements, pulling inward.
Right.
Now, in architecture, a tensegrity structure, like a modern stadium roof or one of those desk toys, is entirely static. The tension is fixed and it doesn't change.
Because it doesn't need to move.
Exactly. But the human body is not a desk toy. We breathe. We adapt to uneven ground. We lift things. We represent what the notes call dynamic tensegrity.
Dynamic.
Yes. Our elastic bands, which are our muscles and our fascia, they are continuously renewing and adjusting their tension network every single second of every day.
So what does this all mean? If static tensegrity is a desk toy, we need a better metaphor for dynamic tensegrity.
Okay.
Imagine a massive suspension bridge. If architectural tensegrity is like a stable suspension bridge, holding perfectly still over a river, does dynamic tensegrity mean the human body is essentially a bridge that is constantly dynamically rebuilding and reorganizing its own steel cables while cars are actively driving over it?
I completely agree with that bridge analogy. That is a perfect way to visualize it. The structure has to be alive to the loads being placed upon it.
Right. It's constantly shifting the tension to accommodate the cars.
Exactly. When the cables are tuning themselves efficiently to the weight of the traffic, the concrete pillars don't bear all the localized stress. And this completely redefines that old bodywork phrase, standing on the bones.
Oh, yeah. People used to think that meant just like hanging purely on your skeleton, shutting off your muscles and slouching like a bag of loose bones.
Right.
Or they thought it meant locking your joints backwards so you didn't have to use your muscles at all.
Which causes so many joint problems.
So many.
Standing on the bones actually means the deep muscular pull is constantly, quietly integrating the skeleton, while the superficial push is generating the movement. When that continuous interaction becomes highly efficient, conscious effort almost disappears.
You stop feeling like you are actively fighting gravity all day.
Exactly. The body feels engaged, yet completely quiet.
Yeah.
The true pleasant sensation described in the text, that elusive feeling of, I am standing effortlessly, that is actually the conscious awareness of a highly efficient, living tension network doing exactly what it evolved to do.
It is the feeling of your body humming along perfectly. The bridge handling the traffic with zero wasted effort.
Beautifully put.
So for you listening right now, how do you actually apply this to your own body? The research notes provide a brilliantly simple physical sequence you can try today wherever you are.
Yes.
But we need to make it practical. First, just stand quietly. As you inhale, gently allow your body to gather toward your center. That is the pull.
Just a subtle gathering.
Right. To physically feel this, imagine trying to gently zip up a slightly tight pair of jeans. You feel your lower stomach lightly tension and draw inward. Just observe that internal organization.
Then, as you exhale, lightly press your feet into the ground. That is the push.
But do not strain. Right.
Exactly. Do not strain. Do not clench your quads or lock your knees backward. Just feel the connection to the floor.
And as the exhale finishes, naturally return to that zipping up feeling on the next inhale. Let the cycle repeat continuously. Gather the center and inhale, press the floor and exhale.
Just letting it flow.
Yeah. Very small changes in tension are entirely sufficient. You don't need to break a sweat doing this.
And keep in mind a really profound detail from the source material here. The purpose of this practice is to awaken your body's intrinsic capacity for self-regulation.
It's a reminder.
Yes. The goal is not to forcefully strengthen your muscles. You aren't doing heavy reps at the gym here. You are just reminding your nervous system how to efficiently tune the strings of your dynamic tensegrity network.
Which leads us with a really fascinating thought to chew on as we wrap up this deep dive.
I love this part.
If our bodies are fundamentally designed to find stability and comfort through this subtle, effortless, rhythmic wave of dynamic tensegrity,
Yeah.
what if our modern fitness obsession with aggressively strengthening the core through forceful, rigid exertion, like doing hundreds of aggressive crunches, what if that is actually overriding the body's natural way of holding itself together?
It raises a really important question about how we train. We might be actively fighting the very biomechanics that make movement effortless in the first place.
Are we trying to force a static, rigid architectural fix onto a dynamic, breathing living system? Definitely something to mull over the next time you find yourself at your desk, trying to forcefully pull your shoulders back and lock them into place to stand up straight.
Just let the wave take over.
Let the rigid architecture go and let the wave take over. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. As you go about your day, see if you can notice that gentle push and pull happening right under the surface. Until next time.